Snow fell silently over the dead battlefield. Machines lay frozen mid-motion, metal twisted by unnatural cold. The trees had stopped burning. The fire had died, not by water, but by something colder than space itself. The soldiers of both sides were nothing but statues now. And yet one man stood, breath steaming in the air, his skin raw from frostbite, staring at the heart of the storm. Captain Elias Granger had no idea why he was still alive. The explosion that unleashed the cold had ripped through the command bunker. Like a tidal wave. His team had screamed only once before ice sealed their lungs. He'd braced for death. But instead of darkness, he opened his eyes to stillness. He wasn't frozen. He could move. He could feel pain. He could breathe. That terrified him more than death itself. The silence was complete. No birds, no machines. Not even the hum of distant power cells. Elias stumbled over a shattered drone. Its shell frost-covered like a sculpture. He turned toward the blast's epicenter. Someone stood there. She didn't wear armor. She didn't need to. Her skin shimmered like polished frost. Her gown flowed like smoke carved from ice. Her eyes burned blue, glowing brighter than plasma fire. She didn't speak. She just watched him. Her fingers, long and clawed, glistened with icy crystal. With a slow step, she moved forward. Where her foot touched the ground, frost bloomed like fire across the earth. A leaf dropped from a nearby branch and turned to glass before it hit the ground. Elias couldn't move, not from fear, not from cold, but from something deeper. Something primal. She tilted her head. Her voice, when it came, wasn't from her mouth. It echoed inside his skull like a whisper through frozen caves. "Why do you still live?" she asked. Her eyes narrowed, not with anger, but with curiosity. Her hand reached out, stopping just inches from his chest. Her touch hovered, not quite landing. The air between them crackled. She stared at him like he was the puzzle the universe forgot to solve. Elias swallowed. "I don't know," he said. It was all he could say. He could barely stand. Every instinct screamed to run, but he knew she'd catch him. Not because she was fast, but because nothing escaped her. And yet, she didn't kill him. Her expression changed. Slightly, her lips parted. A breath he didn't expect. Confusion? Shock? Whatever she felt, it wasn't rage. She brushed the edge of his skin. Not quite a touch, just the pressure of ice-kissed air. A spark ran through him, not electricity, not magic, something older. Something colder, but it didn't hurt. Instead, it felt like being seen. Like every memory, every wound, every loss he carried had become clear in her gaze. And she whispered one word more. Warmth. Elias didn't understand. She drew her hand back like his skin had burned her. She stared at her palm, confused, maybe even afraid. The wind howled suddenly, as if pulled back into the world by her breath. Snowflakes twisted upward instead of falling. Around them, time felt strange. He wanted to move, speak, explain. But how do you explain being human to something that could kill planets? Her voice rang again in his mind. You are not like the others. You burn inside. Her gaze pierced deeper, not through his body but into his thoughts. I have walked across suns and shattered stars. Nothing remains after me, but you do. Elias felt her presence stretch around him, not like a shadow, but like a tide, waiting to decide whether to drown him or carry him. She turned away, slowly, gracefully. Her steps left frozen crystals in the air, floating where her feet had been. But after 2 paces, she stopped. She looked over her shoulder. Follow me, she said. Not an order, not even a request, but something stranger, an invitation. He should have said no. He should have collapsed. But something made him follow. Something not even he understood. Behind them, the battlefield cracked. Ice shattered, metal groaned, and broken machines twitched. The frost began to move again, but it didn't spread. It pulled back, like a sea retreating from the sand. The war was over. But the real danger had just begun. The frozen forest was not dead, but trapped. Trees stood like statues of ice. The ground crunched under Elias's boots, yet each sound felt loud in the silence. The sky above was a dull silver, as if the sun feared this land. Behind him, the world was gone. In front of him, she walked without a trace of sound. The Ice Queen led him deeper into a place no map had marked. Her long hair moved like frozen silk, her body glowing faintly with frostlight. Animals, if they existed here, stayed hidden. Number. Birds, no insects. Just the sound of Elias breathing hard, his chest tight from cold and wonder. And still, she did not speak with her mouth. Elias had seen war. He had seen cities fall. He had seen human weapons wipe out battalions in seconds. But nothing had prepared him for her. She was not made of flesh alone. Her presence shifted the air. Her steps changed the shape of reality. And yet, she looked over her shoulder often, as if making sure he still followed. He wanted to ask her name. He wanted to ask what she was. But each time he opened his mouth, something inside told him to stay silent. Words were too small here. His training had not prepared him for this. She was not a threat the way war was. She was colder, deeper, unstoppable, but somehow not cruel. She stopped at the edge of a ridge. Below, the valley stretched wide, frozen in perfect stillness. At the center was a massive tower of ice, shaped like a flower, its petals curled around a glowing blue core. Elias stared. It pulsed like a heartbeat. The air around it shimmered with cold so intense it looked like fire. This is where I was. Born, her voice echoed in his mind. Where I was created, not by hands, but by pain. She looked down at the valley, not with pride, but sadness. This world was once alive, until I woke up. Elias said nothing. He understood. The tower wasn't a home. It was a prison. They descended together. Her steps never stumbled. His boots slipped, but she caught him without turning. Her fingers barely brushed his arm, and yet heat sparked in her eyes when she did. Elias noticed it again, the way she reacted to warmth. As if it confused her. As if it mattered in a way even she didn't understand. Inside the tower, the silence deepened. The walls were not smooth, but shaped like crystal and bone. Faces stared from the walls, carved in ice, their eyes hollow. My memories, she whispered, each one locked inside this place. Each life I touched, each one I froze. Elias walked past the walls slowly, feeling their pain. She stopped before a raised platform. Above it hovered a shard of light, turning slowly in place. It looked like a crystal, but it pulsed softly, like breath. This is what I am, she said, a fragment of a dying star. Given shape, given purpose, to destroy. Elias stepped closer, drawn to it like a flame. Her arm blocked him. You will die if you touch it, she said. Her voice was not harsh. It was afraid. No living thing can hold it, except me, but even I burn. Elias looked at her hand, then her face. Her skin was flawless, but he could see small cracks of light under her fingers. She was breaking. He sat down slowly on the platform's edge. Then why am I here? He asked. Why didn't you kill me? She looked at him, truly looked, her face soft with thought. Because your warmth did not fear me, she said. You burned through my frost. And now I don't know what I am supposed to be anymore. She stepped back, and for the first time, Elias saw her tremble. Not from cold, from doubt. I was made to end all things. But now I wonder, what if I can choose? Her hand opened. Frost formed in her palm, then melted in seconds. She looked at him. Teach me what warmth means. Teach me how not to kill. Didn't laugh. He didn't mock her. He simply nodded. "Then stay close," he said, "and let me show you." The Ice Queen sat beside him on the cold stone, her fingers curled close to his, though not touching. For a long time they said nothing. But the frost around them stopped spreading. In the heart of a frozen world, something small and fragile began to glow, not from light, but from choice. From two broken beings who didn't know what came next. But somehow, that was the beginning of something new. The cold no longer bit his skin the same way. It was still there, thick in the air, but something about her presence now felt different. Elias woke from a shallow sleep, not frozen but resting, his body curled beside the shimmering stone floor. The Ice Queen stood over him, watching without a word. Her breath left no mist. Her eyes still burned blue. She was changing, slowly. He could see it now. The glow from her skin had softened. Her fingers still looked like claws, but the crystal edges seemed smoother. Her hair, once stiff with frost, now swayed gently like. It followed some invisible wind. She studied him not like a subject, but like a question she didn't yet know how to ask. "What are dreams?" she asked quietly. Her voice touched his mind like snow landing on water. "You made sounds in your sleep, pain, joy. I have no dreams, only echoes." Elias sat up slowly. His hands were shaking, not from cold, but from how much he wanted her to keep speaking. "She sounded more alive today. They're pictures in our head when we rest," he said. "Sometimes memories, sometimes hopes, sometimes just confusion." He chuckled and looked at her. "Sometimes they're lies we tell ourselves." She tilted her head, absorbing every word. "I want to have one," she whispered. "Just once." He stood. His legs ached from the cold stone. "Then come with me when we leave this place," he said. "There's more out there, light, fire, people. You could feel warmth for real." She turned her face away. "I cannot walk in your world. I bring death with every breath." Her voice trembled now. "I don't want to kill again." Elias stepped forward, close enough to feel her cold wrap around him. But it didn't hurt, not like before. Her cold had changed. It didn't burn or break. It shivered gently, as if learning how to soften. "You haven't killed me," he said. "And maybe that means you can change." Her eyes flickered. "Or maybe you're just strong enough to endure me." They left the tower together. The valley was still, but no longer silent. Tiny birds had returned. One flapped overhead, feathers puffed against the frost. The queen looked up, stunned. "It does not fear me," she whispered. "It does not die." A single snowdrop flower had bloomed near the ridge. It bent under ice, but stood. The wind followed them, not sharp, but cool like a morning breeze. Elias felt the difference. The world responded to her in a new way. Where once she brought stillness, now she brought pause, not death, not destruction, just the quiet before growth. She had become something in between. They climbed toward the surface where the battlefield had been. What they found was not the ruins Elias remembered. Instead of wreckage and frozen death, strange green patches had appeared. Not full life, but the start of something. The frost had stopped spreading. It clung only to shadows. The light now reached the earth. She looked confused. "I do not understand," she said. "My presence should have destroyed all of this. There should be nothing left." Elias walked ahead and knelt beside a broken power rod. Vines had crept over it. "Maybe it's not about what you do anymore," he said. "Maybe it's about what you allow." The Ice Queen knelt beside him. Her hands hovered over the ground. The ice beneath her melted, slowly, gently. A worm wiggled in the dirt and disappeared into a crack. She gasped, not from fear, but wonder. "It lives," she said, "even with me so close." "It lives," Elias smiled. "You're not the same. As when we met, you were colder than death. But now you feel curious, and maybe that's how it starts." She looked at him, then at her own hand. Her claws retracted slightly. The edges dulled. The crystals pulsing under her skin dimmed like her power was learning how to rest. That night, they built a fire together. She couldn't touch the flame directly. When she tried, the fire hissed and shrank. But when Elias took her hand and placed it near his chest, the flame grew steady again. She watched, amazed. "So this is what you mean by warmth," she said. "It is not just heat. It is something deeper." He nodded. "It's comfort, safety, feeling close to someone, knowing you're not alone." Her voice was soft as snowfall. "I have always been alone." Elias took her hand. She didn't flinch. This time her skin didn't sting. It felt like cool silk. For the first time, she didn't pull away. They sat by the fire as stars turned above them. No weapons, no orders. Just two beings from opposite ends of existence trying to understand something new. Elias looked at her profile, glowing in the orange light. "Do you have a name?" he asked. She shook her head slowly. "I was never given one," she said. "They called me Frost Death, Winterborn, the End. I did not need a name. I was a weapon." Elias squeezed her hand gently. "Then I'll call you something else." She looked at him, waiting. "Ayla," he said. "It means light that comes after darkness." Her lips parted. Not a smile. Not yet. But something close. Something like hope. Ayla stood beneath the rising sun, her eyes blinking as soft morning light touched her pale skin. For the first time, she did not shrink from it. The warmth didn't burn. It didn't die around her. It kissed her cold form and stayed. Elias watched from nearby, his heart beating slower now, not from fear, but from awe. The ice queen had changed. Her steps no longer froze the ground. Her breath no longer summoned storms. Birds landed nearby without turning to frost. The wind moved around her, not away from her. Life, once terrified of her presence, now returned to watch what she was becoming. She turned to Elias and spoke without touching his mind. Her lips moved this time. Her voice came out soft but clear. "Ayla," she said, as if trying the name. For the first time, he nodded. "That's you now." She looked down at her hand. "I was death, but you've given me a name. A beginning." They walked toward the ruins of a human outpost. Buildings lay cracked and broken, covered in layers of old ice. But now, green vines grew through shattered walls. The frost hadn't vanished, but it had stopped spreading. Ayla placed her hand on a wall, and instead of freezing it, she drew the cold back. Inside one building, they found a damaged comms panel. Elias tried to power it with a portable cell from his belt. Sparks jumped, and then static filled the air. He adjusted the dials. A voice came through, faint but real. "If anyone hears this, return to base. Extraction window closing in 72 hours. Ayla leaned close. "Others are coming?" she asked. Elias nodded. "A rescue ship. If we can reach the uplink station, we can call them down." Her expression turned still. "If they see me, they'll try to kill me." He sighed. "If they see what you were, yes. But if they see who you are now, maybe they'll understand." They traveled toward the uplink tower, moving through hills once buried in ice. Now thawing rivers trickled through cracks. Ayla paused often to look at tiny signs of life forms. In the dirt, grass pushing through stone, birds nesting in broken steel. She walked like a ghost, seeing the world for the first time. But as they neared the old station, the air changed. It was colder again, sharp and biting. Ayla narrowed her eyes. "This is not me," she whispered. "Something else lives here." Elias raised his weapon, his body tense. The frost on the ground pulsed unnaturally. It was too perfect, too shaped, too recent. They moved carefully through twisted corridors. The frost here was alive. Not like Ayla's quiet cold, but jagged angry. It hissed against metal. Elias saw shapes frozen into the walls, creatures, soldiers, even drones trapped mid-scream. Ayla stopped, her eyes wide. "This is my past," she said. "But I did not do this." At the tower's heart, they saw it. A creature like Ayla, but darker. Its form was twisted, made of blackened ice and burning blue veins. Its eyes burned with rage. It hissed, and the air shook. "Failed sister," it growled. "You turned soft. You chose warmth." Ayla stepped forward slowly. "I chose life," she said. The creature snarled. "You were made to end life, not to protect it." Elias raised his weapon. Ayla held out her hand to stop him. "He is one of me, a shard like I was." But he chose rage. He stayed what we were born to be. The creature surged forward with a scream. Elias fired, but the bullets froze mid-air. The creature struck with a wave of black frost, knocking Elias against the wall. Ayla moved fast, faster than before. Her hands glowed with soft blue light. Not sharp, not violent, but calm and steady. She reached the creature and touched its chest. "Let go," she whispered. The black ice screamed. Its body cracked. Veins of light spread through its form. It thrashed, trying to freeze her. But Ayla didn't burn. She didn't retreat. She stood firm, her cold folding into his, changing it. The creature's glow faded. It stopped moving. Then it shattered into snow. Elias pulled himself up, coughing. "What was that?" he asked. Ayla turned to him, her face solemn. "The part of me I left behind. It did not want to change. So it tried to kill the future I chose." She stepped closer, knelt beside him, and placed her hand on his shoulder. "But I won. Because I had you." Together they activated the uplink. Lights flickered to life. A beacon pulsed to the sky. Ayla watched the screen flash with coordinates. Elias turned to her. "The ship will come soon. We'll be able to leave this place." She didn't answer at first. Her gaze lingered on the snow outside. "Will they let me live?" she asked quietly. Elias stood beside her. "If they don't, then they'll have to go through me first." Ayla looked at him with eyes full of something she had never known before. Not power, not fear, but trust. She reached for his hand and held it tightly. For the first time, her touch didn't feel cold. Outside, the snow stopped falling. The sky cleared. A new dawn had begun. The sky was clear when the human rescue ship entered orbit. Its engines burned through clouds of cold air as it descended slowly toward the uplink signal. Elias stood at the edge of the old station's landing platform, looking up at the dark silver hull breaking through the atmosphere. Ayla stood beside him, her hands folded, her body calm, but her eyes uncertain. "You do not know how they will respond," she said quietly. "You may think they will listen, but fear speaks louder than reason." Elias nodded. "They'll see me first. They'll hear me. And they'll see that you didn't kill me." He turned toward her and touched her arm. "You saved me. That should mean something." The ship's ramp lowered with a hiss. Armed soldiers stepped out first, weapons raised. Elias lifted his arms high. "Stand down," he shouted. "This world's threat is over. I'm Captain Elias Granger, and I'm not alone." The commander walked forward cautiously, helmet reflecting the cold light. His eyes locked on Ayla. "That thing behind you, what is it?" the man demanded. Elias didn't step aside. "She's not a threat. She's a person. Her name is Ayla. She saved my life. She saved this world. You're alive right now because of her." The soldiers didn't lower their rifles. One twitched. Ayla didn't move. Elias stepped forward. "You shoot her, and you'll lose more than a chance at peace. You'll lose something we can't replace." The commander paused. He looked around. He saw the thawing ground, the grass, the birds, the warmth. He had read the reports. The planet was once doomed. Now it breathed again. He lowered his weapon. Explain everything. From the beginning, Elias nodded. Inside, away from wind and weapons, Ayla followed them into the station. Her presence made some of the soldiers nervous. A few backed away. Others stared with curiosity. None dared approach her yet. Inside the control room, Elias told the full story. He described the explosion, the frozen battlefield, the first encounter, the slow change. Ayla stood silent the whole time. But when Elias spoke of her saving him, not once, but twice her eyes dropped toward the floor. She wasn't proud. She looked like someone learning how to feel shame and hope at the same time. The commander crossed his arms. What if she's a weapon in disguise? What if this is part of a trick? Elias shook his head. She could have killed me 100 times. She could have killed all of us right now. But she didn't. You saw the dead frost creature near the uplink. She destroyed that thing. She protected me. She chose not to be what she was made to be. Ayla finally stepped forward. Her voice was soft. I was created to end life. But I no longer want to destroy. He gave me a name. A reason to be more than a weapon. I ask only for a place where I do not have to be feared. The room fell silent. Her words were slow, unsure, but they felt real. One of the younger soldiers removed his helmet. He looked at her with wide eyes. You're cold, but not like before. You feel quite. Ayla blinked. She tilted her head. I try to be. The commander studied her carefully. If we take you in, others will panic. They'll try to take you apart, study you, cage you. Elias clenched his fists. Then we don't take her to them. We find somewhere safe, somewhere isolated, where she can learn, where she can become more. The commander rubbed his face. You're asking me to trust something that killed whole battalions. Ayla didn't defend herself. She only said one word. Please. In the end, it was the thaw that convinced them. The world was waking up. Satellites showed life returning. Plants, soil, water. None of that would happen if she had meant harm. The commander sighed. We'll report a fragment of energy remained. It has now dissipated. We found you, wounded but alive. That's the official story. Elias breathed out in relief. Ayla bowed her head. Thank you, she said. The commander looked at her one last time. Whatever you are, don't give us a reason to regret this. The soldiers left the room, whispering among themselves. Some glanced back at her. Others avoided her gaze. But none raised a weapon. Later, aboard the ship, Ayla sat by a window. She watched the stars shift as the vessel broke through the upper atmosphere. Elias sat beside her. First time leaving your world? He asked with a small grin. She nodded. It feels strange. Light touches me without fear. The stars are not cold anymore. He reached over and took her hand. She didn't pull away. You're going to see more than you ever imagined, he said. You'll learn things you were never allowed to feel. Ayla smiled, soft, barely there. But real. As long as I can learn with you, I will not be afraid. Together, they watched the world shrink behind them. It no longer looked like a tomb. It looked like a beginning. Asterisk, the ship glided through orbit, stars drifting outside the windows like sparks in a quiet sea. Ayla sat quietly, her posture calm, but her thoughts racing. She had left the world of ice behind. Now she moved into a place filled with voices, with choices, with unknown fears. She had never imagined what came after survival. Elias stayed close. He explained things to her, what planets were nearby, what humans called comfort food, what laughter sounded like, and why people sometimes cried without pain. Ayla listened carefully, her face thoughtful. Each detail was like a thread stitching new meaning into her heart. She walked the corridors of the ship slowly. At first, the crew kept their distance. Some stared with curiosity. Others stepped aside. When she passed, But no one pointed a weapon. No one shouted. They watched her. They noticed how Frost no longer followed her footsteps. They saw how she smiled when a child waved at her near the med bay. Ayla paused in front of a mirror. Her reflection stared back at her, no longer a monster, no longer an object of fear. Her skin still shimmered with faint frostlight, but her eyes looked different now. They didn't burn. They glowed gently. She reached up and touched her face as if seeing it for the first time. "I don't know who I'm becoming," she said softly. Elias stood behind her, arms crossed. "You're becoming someone who gets to choose," he replied. She turned to face him. "And if I choose wrong?" He smiled. "Then you try again. That's what humans do. We fall, we get back up." In the ship's observation lounge, Ayla sat with other passengers. She didn't speak much, but she watched and listened. A young girl offered her a glowing snack cube. Ayla held it, unsure. "It's sweet," the girl said, "like dreams." Ayla placed it in her mouth, and her eyes widened. The taste didn't hurt. It filled her with something strange. She turned to Elias later. "My fingers didn't freeze it. My mouth didn't turn it to ice." He nodded. "You're changing faster now. It's not just what you do, it's who you are." She closed her hand into a fist. "Then I will protect this new self. I will not let the cold control me again." When they arrived at the orbital station, many officers were waiting. Elias had already arranged everything. No scans, no tests. Just safe passage. A place far from crowds. A home in the green zones of Terra Nova. A planet where winter came gently and life grew strong. Ayla would begin her next chapter there. As the shuttle descended through the clouds, Ayla leaned forward, her eyes locked on the forests below. "Is this where peace lives?" she asked. Elias chuckled. "Peace doesn't live anywhere. You bring it with you. You create it wherever you go." Ayla watched a river sparkle in the distance. "Then I will build it here." They settled into a small shelter surrounded by trees. No guards, no soldiers, just quiet. Ayla learned quickly. She planted seeds, she cared for animals. The cold inside her no longer lashed out. It stayed still, like snow resting under soft sunlight. Elias taught her how to cook, to read, and to listen to music. One evening, they sat on a log near a quiet lake. Ayla dipped her fingers into the water. It didn't freeze. It rippled gently. "I used to turn oceans into stone," she whispered. "Now even water accepts me." Elias sat beside her, silent for a while. Then he placed a warm blanket around her shoulders. "You're not alone," he said. "You never have to be again." Ayla looked up at the stars. "I once believed I was the last of my kind. But now I understand I am the first of something new." Elias took her hand. "You're not a weapon, you're a person. One with the power to heal." The next day, an emergency beacon reached the colony. A nearby settlement had suffered a reactor leak. Temperatures were rising fast. Fire threatened the forests. Rescue teams were few. Elias looked at Ayla. She nodded before he could speak. "Take me there," she said. "My frost can save them." They flew in fast. The flames had already reached the edge of the town. People screamed, drones failed. Ayla stepped into the blaze without fear. The fire touched her, and it vanished. The ground cooled under her feet. The smoke cleared. She walked through the heart of chaos and left only calm behind. Children stared at her like she was magic. Adults dropped their tools and bowed their heads. Elias approached her after it was done. "They'll write about this," he said. "They'll remember what you did here." Ayla looked around. "Let them remember, but let them call me by name. Not Ice Queen, not Monster. Just Ayla." That night, the people of the settlement invited her to share their food. She sat at their fire, not as a guest, but as one of them. Her eyes glowed in the firelight, not with cold, but with purpose. She had saved them, not because she had to, but because she chose to. The sun rose over Terra Nova with gentle light, casting golden rays through the tall green trees. Ayla stood barefoot in the grass, her feet no longer freezing the earth. Birds flew low across the sky. Wind stirred her long white hair. She breathed in the morning air and let her fingers brush across a row of wildflowers. Nearby, children laughed as they played near a calm stream. They had stopped fearing her weeks ago. Now they ran to her with questions and bright smiles. She answered them with patient words and soft hands. Her voice, once sharp in minds, now came from her lips, steady and warm. Elias watched from the porch of their cabin. His heart was steady now. His body had healed, but more than that, something deeper had changed inside him. He had seen war. He had seen death. But in Ayla, he had seen something better. A future he never thought possible had taken root. At night, the village gathered to honor the Frostbearer who saved them. They offered her food, songs, and woven cloths dyed in forest colors. Ayla accepted each gift with a slight bow. Her eyes shined, not from power, but from something she never believed she would hold belonging. Elias stood by her side as the villagers lit lanterns and sent them into the sky. Tiny stars floated upward. Ayla looked up, her face glowing in the warm light. "Do they always do this?" she asked. Elias nodded. "It's how they remember peace. It's how they say thank you." That night, Ayla dreamed for the first time. She didn't sleep like humans, but something inside her allowed it now. In the dream, she stood on ice but it didn't crack. The sky above was warm, and a figure reached for her hand. When she woke, Elias was beside her, his head resting against her shoulder. She spoke first. "I had a dream. I wasn't alone in it." Elias looked at her. "That means your heart is healing." She smiled and placed her hand over her chest. "I think it always wanted to heal. It just didn't know how until I met you." He took her hand, and together they stepped outside into the morning light. A message came from orbit weeks later. The High Command had heard whispers of the frozen queen turned protector. They requested an audience, not to interrogate, not to imprison, but to ask for help. Other places across the galaxy needed what she had become. Ayla read the message with a quiet gaze. "They once feared me, now they ask for me." Elias looked up. "Do you want to go?" She paused, then nodded. "Yes, if I can bring life where there was only death, then I will go. But only if you come with me." He didn't hesitate. Always. Together they prepared for the journey. The villagers gifted them tokens of blessing, a necklace of crystal and firestone, a robe stitched with frost patterns, and a carved wooden flower to remind her of her first bloom on thawed soil. When the ship arrived, Ayla stepped aboard with confidence. She no longer walked as a weapon. She no longer breathed as a curse. She moved like a guardian, like someone who had faced her own darkness and chosen the path of light. The stars opened before them. New worlds waited, some broken, some burning, some drowning in silence. But Ayla was not afraid. She had once frozen planets. Now she would help them grow, not with fire, not with machines, but with understanding. She had learned to touch without harm, to speak without pain, to feel without fear. And more than that, she had learned that love was not something only humans could give. It was something she had found within herself. Across the galaxy they traveled. Some welcomed her with open arms. Others kept their distance. But everywhere she went, the cold faded, the winds softened, and people began to believe that maybe monsters could change. Elias stayed at her side, not as her guide, not as her protector, but as her partner, as the one who saw past her frost and offered her a name, a future, a choice. She never forgot that. And though the stars stretched far and wide, and though many would try to define her, the truth remained simple. She was not a queen of ice anymore. She was Isla, the one who chose life over death. The one who touched a human soldier and melted.